friends, good morning. Welcome to Shankaran AI Study Circle. This is Dr. Harinath Reddy, Director of the Institute. Today in this particular video, we will try to discuss yet another important question relevant for APPSC Group 1 Mains exam, TSPSC Group 1 Mains exam, as well as UPSC Group 1 Mains exam. The question is, critically examine the nature of Indian federalism. Critically examine the nature of Indian federalism. Critically examine the nature of Indian federalism. So here there were a number of reasons why India has made a deviation from the classical federal systems like in United States of America, Switzerland and Australia. So what are the reasons which compelled India under the framers of the Indian Constitution to make a deviation from the classical federal system, and because of this deviation, what is the criticism leveled against the Indian federalism? As I told you, the peculiar situation and the peculiar needs of India made the framers of the Indian Constitution to make changes to the federal constitution before it is implemented in India. In other words, the federal form of government as is being practiced elsewhere is suitably modified to suit to the situations of India. So that's why in India, unlike in America, we had a federation with a strong center. So if you take the American Constitution, United States of America, United States of America is the first country to experiment with a federal constitution. So in America is an example for a true federation. So American federation is the result of agreement among the states. If you remember, after the American War of Independence against England, all the 13 colonies which have won freedom from Britain, they came together and formed into a federation. So American federation is the result of agreement among the states. American federation is created by agreement among the states. So in America, which is an example for true federation, it is the states which are powerful, not the center. So in a true federation, the states are powerful, the center is relatively big. But even in America, in actual working, because of the role played by the American Supreme Court, today in America we had a federation with a strong center as well as equally strong states. But originally, in the beginning, American federation created for a strong states and a relatively weak center. But in India, we deviated from the true federal features, the reason being, at the time of partition, there was a forced mass migration of people, lot of bloodshed and violence. Around 10 lakh people got killed in the name of religion. 2 lakh women from both sides got abducted. So this is the backdrop in which the Constitution of India is getting framed or drafted in the Constituent Assembly. So when India got independence on 15th August 1947, many Western political thinkers, they felt that India as a nation will not continue for long. India will break up into several Indias very soon because of the huge diversity within India. So keeping all these things in mind, the framers of the Indian Constitution were greatly worried about protecting the unity and integrity of India. So the overriding priority, the paramount objective of the framers of the Indian Constitution is to protect the unity and integrity of India. So they felt that if federal constitution is created in India, then that shall provide for a strong central government. If the central government is weak, protecting the unity and integrity of India will be very difficult. So they have favored a federal constitution with a strong center. In addition to this, unlike the American system, Indian federalism is not an example for symmetrical federalism. India is an example for asymmetrical federalism. So asymmetrical federalism, what do you mean by that? Asymmetrical federalism is one wherein the federating units, that is the states, all the states do not enjoy equal powers. So then again, why India became an asymmetrical federalism? This is again to accommodate Indian diversity and to suit to the peculiar needs of India. In India, to address the problems of the disadvantaged social groups, to address the problems of the backward regions, to address the problems of religious minorities, to address the problems of to address the demand of ethnic tribes in Northeast India, Indian federalism became asymmetrical federalism. So this is to address certain genuine and serious issues in the Indian polity, that India became an asymmetrical federalism rather than symmetrical federalism. So this is the context in which we need to see the nature of Indian federalism. And then if we see the comments made by several experts relating to Indian constitution, K.C. Ware, one of the constitutional experts, he says Indian constitution is a quasi-federal means semi-federal, it is not fully federal. And this man also says India basically had a unitary state with a subsidiary federal features rather than a federal state with a subsidiary unitary features. So this statement means that under the Indian constitution, the unitary features dominate. The center is strong, the states are weak, the states are relatively weak. So India is basically a unitary state with a greater powers to the central government, and it is not a federal state with a greater powers to the states. So that is the expression used by K.C. Ware when he tried to explain the nature of Indian federalism. K.C. Ware characterized Indian federalism as a quasi-federal, semi-federal. It's not fully federal. It doesn't create strong states. Instead, it creates a strong central government. That's why he says India is a unitary state with a subsidiary federal features and not a federal state with a subsidiary unitary features. Then another constitutional expert, Maurice Jones, he characterizes Indian federalism as an example for bargaining federalism. This is true to some extent. This expression is true to some extent in the Indian context, bargaining federalism. For example, under the Indian constitution in the 7th schedule, where the executive, legislative and financial powers are divided between the center and the states in the form of 3 lists, greater developmental responsibilities are put on the states, but a greater revenue raising capacity is kept in the central government. As a result, the state governments are heavily dependent on the central government for financial resources to meet the developmental needs of the state governments. And that's why increasingly the states are dependent on the financial resources from the center to implement the policies related to the subjects in the state list. Every time a Finance Commission of India is constituted, the states make demand for greater devolution of central tax revenues to the state governments. So, for example, before the 13th and 14th Finance Commission of India, before the 13th and 14th Finance Commissions of India, the state governments have demanded a 50% share in the net tax revenues of the central government. But 14th Finance Commission has recommended 42%, 15th Finance Commission has recommended 41%, 13th Finance Commission has recommended 32%. So this is the bargain which Maurice Jones is speaking about. Maurice Jones characterizes Indian federalism as an example for bargaining federalism. This is true. Then we had one more person, Ivor Jennings. Ivor Jennings, this man says Indian Constitution has a, Indian Federation has a strong centralizing tendency. Indian Federation has a strong centralizing tendency. This is true because in the union list we had 98 items, but in the state list there were only 59 items. In the concurrent list there are 52 items. For all practical purposes, concurrent list is the second union list or the de facto union list, because though both parliament and the state legislatures can make laws on the subjects in the concurrent list, in case there is a conflict, the law made by the parliament will prevail. That is why concurrent list is called de facto union list. In addition to this, the executive power of the state is subjected to the executive power of the union government. So in financial sphere, most of the taxes which generate lot of revenue, which are called the buoyant taxes, they are put in the union list. So like this, not only in the executive sphere, not only in the legislative sphere, but even in the financial sphere, we see the domination of the center compared to the states. That's why the expression used by Ivor Jennings, Indian Federation has a strong centralizing tendency, which is true. Then Santanam, this man says, at least in the initial 4 to 5 decades, Indian Constitution worked practically as a unitary constitution. In the first 4 to 5 decades, Indian Constitution in practice worked more like a unitary state rather than federal state. And he says that there are two important reasons for this. The first one, the dependence of the states on the center for grants, and the second reason, the role played by the planning commission in the developmental process at the state level. So these two reasons were responsible for India functioning like a unitary state in the first 4 to 5 decades according to Santanam. Then Paul Appleby disagrees with the people like this, which we have discussed so far, and he says that Indian Constitution is extremely federal. Indian Constitution is extremely federal. Then Alexandrovich, another constitutional expert, another constitutional expert says Indian federalism is a case sui generis, which means a unique kind of federalism. So Alexandrovich says Indian federalism is an example for a unique kind of federalism which is enacted to suit to the specific situations in India. In addition to all these people, we had one more person, Granville Austin. He characterizes Indian federalism as an example for cooperative federalism. And again he is a true. Granville Austin is a true in describing the Indian Federation as an example for cooperative federalism. In fact, India is an example for cooperative federalism. Then what is the definition of cooperative federalism? So the definition of the cooperative federalism is, if there is mutual interdependence between the national and regional governments, then such federalism is called cooperative federalism. For example, in India, the states are dependent on the center for financial resources, and the union is also dependent on the states. How? For example, the centrally sponsored schemes which are designed by the union government are implemented through the state governments. All the laws which are made by the Indian Parliament on the subjects in the concurrent list, they are again implemented through the state governments. So like this, in India, the union is dependent on the states and the states are dependent on the union government. This is called mutual interdependence. So any federalism which provides for mutual interdependence between the national and regional governments is called cooperative federalism. In fact, in India, the Finance Commission of India has played an important role in ensuring that there is cooperation between the center and the states. So that's why the Finance Commission of India, it is called the balancing wheel. By recommending greater share to the states in the central government tax revenues, Finance Commission of India has promoted cooperative federalism in India. And even Interstate Council to some extent has played a role in promoting cooperation between the center and the states. In the recent past, GST Council, Goods and Service Tax Council with respect to indirect taxation is again a beautiful and a shining example for cooperative federalism in the center-state financial relations. So, Granville Austin says Indian federalism was created to suit to the peculiar needs and situations of India. He says Indian federalism does create a strong central government. Indian federalism does create a strong central government, but it does not create weak state governments. State governments are not merely the administrative agencies for implementing the central policies. No, he doesn't agree with that. He says, though Indian Federation creates strong central government, it does not necessarily create weak states, and they are not administrative agencies for implementing central policies, because the executive power and legislative power is divided between the center and the states in the 7th schedule. With respect to all these subjects in the state list, the states are supreme, autonomous and independent. So that's why he says the states in India are not weak. They are not merely administrative agencies for implementing central policies. In addition to this, we had one important judgment in 1993. S.R. Bommai versus Union of India. This was in 1993 by a 9-judge bench. Remember, though Constitution of India is a definitely federal, it may not be truly federal like United States of America, but the word federal is nowhere mentioned in the Indian Constitution. So using the word federal in the Indian Constitution was deliberately avoided by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and there is a reason for this. What is the reason? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar does not want to create any doubt in the states that they have a right to secede from the Indian Union. To make this abundantly clear, the word federal is not used in the Indian Constitution. But that doesn't mean that India is not a federal constitution. Of course, it is definitely federal. So this was laid down by the Supreme Court in this case, S.R. Bommai versus Union of India. In this case, the Supreme Court said the states are not merely the satellites or agents of the central government. They have independent constitutional existence and authority. And federalism in India is not a matter of administrative convenience. Federalism in India is not a matter of administrative convenience, but it is a principle which needs to be practiced. And also the Supreme Court in this important case said federalism is a basic feature of the Indian Constitution, which means this cannot be taken away by the Indian Parliament by amending the Constitution under Article 368. Then if you see the views of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, while speaking in the Constituent Assembly and while replying to the criticism of excessive centralization under the Federal Constitution of India, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says the executive and legislative authority is divided between the center and the states, and with respect to all the items in the state list, the states have got autonomy, independence, and they are completely free from the dependence on the central government. So he rejected the argument of excessive centralism and reducing the states to the level of municipalities. And he says that Indian federalism is flexible in the sense in normal times it works like a federal constitution, and in emergency situations it will become a unitary constitution. So without any formal amendment, to the Constitution of India, without any formal amendment to the Indian Constitution, depending upon the situation, the Constitution of India can become either flexible, or it can become either federal or unitary. So in normal times, the Indian Constitution works like a federal constitution, but in abnormal situations, it becomes unitary. When situations like national emergency are declared, it becomes unitary. So Indian Constitution becoming unitary happens only in extreme cases where there was a threat to sovereignty and territorial integrity of India. But otherwise, India works like a federal constitution. That's why Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says, depending on the circumstances, India can either become federal or unitary. So if it is normal times, it will work like federal constitution, but if it is an emergency situation, it can work like a unitary constitution. This is the flexibility which is built into the provisions of the Indian Constitution. So that's it about the nature of Indian federalism, and this is the critical examination of the nature of Indian federalism. So the students must remember the reason why India adopted a federal constitution with a strong center is to protect the unity and integrity of India. So at the time of partition, there was a lot of bloodshed, violence, and a forced mass migration of the people. And 10 lakh people got killed in the name of religion, 2 lakh women from both sides were abducted. So keeping this reality in mind, the framers of the Indian Constitution felt that there is a compelling need to create a federation with a strong center, otherwise protecting the unity and integrity of India may not be possible. And this is the reason why the framers of the Indian Constitution went in for a federal constitution with a strong center. That doesn't mean that the states are completely weak. They have their own independence and autonomy with respect to all the subjects in the state list. So this will be the summing up of the nature of Indian federalism. So that's it. This is the answer which you need to write for this question. Please try to bring in even this asymmetrical federalism in your answer, and also you can also speak about multi-layered federalism. In India, after the 73rd and the 74th amendments to the Indian Constitution, India became a three-tiered federalism or multi-layered federalism. We had a central government at the union level, state government at the state level, and at the local level, we had in 6th schedule areas autonomous councils, and in other parts of the country we had rural and urban local self-governing institutions acting as the third tier of the government. This is called multi-layered federalism. This is again one more dimension of Indian federalism. So that's it about the nature of Indian federalism. Thank you.